Hello, you beautiful people. Today I wanted to give you guys some buy low trade targets to go after over the All Star break. So, in my opinion, the All Star break is one of the best times to make trades in fantasy leagues, and I want to talk about a few of the players I think you should go after. So, before we begin, feel free to like and subscribe if you want to. We're almost at 500 subs, which is wild. Thank you all so much for the support. I really appreciate the love on all the videos. And also, I have a Discord for people who really love basketball, so that link's going to be in the description. It's really great if you want to talk about anything NBA related, fantasy related, or just hoop related, honestly. So, with that being said, let's just start the video. So the reason I think that the All-Star break's such a good time to trade for fantasy players is because people sort of have a limited memory when it comes to these sort of things, and they don't really look at the long-term prospects most of the time, I find. So if a player goes into the All-Star break on a bad stretch of games, then that's all people are going to remember. They're going to be like, oh my god, this player's having a bad stretch, I gotta move him. And more often than not, you're going to be able to lowball them and get them the player for less value than you would be able to regularly. So yeah, with that being said, there's a few reasons why I think it's a good time to trade for players that are either going into the All-Star break on a cold stretch, or if there's players that are coming back from an injury sometime after the All-Star break, it's a great time to go ahead and pick them up. And with that being said, we're going to start with the baby GOAT, the greatest player in the league, my favorite player, Jason Tatum. And he's just a great buy low target right now. I mean, he's had a few awful shooting games, I won't lie. I've been watching them and it's been kind of painful as a Celtics fan, but we all know Jason Tatum's a better player than that. I mean, he had a 9-point game, a 13-point game, and a 14-point game, and like that's just not gonna be like the pattern for the rest of the season. He's obviously gonna pick his production up. He's always been a really solid player. Yes, he's had the occasional dud this season, but honestly, his overall production completely overshadows that. So I think it's a great time to buy low on Jason Tatum. It won't cost you as much as it normally would to get him. Like, the thing with these buy low trade targets is it's not like go get these players at any cost. I'm just saying, like, if you happen to be able to get Jason Tatum on a bargain, then go ahead and take advantage of that. And I think the All-Star break is a great time to go and do that because Tatum always seems to go on a crazy stretch after the All-Star break, so I'd definitely try to get him on your team now while you still can for a cheap price. And the next player is going to be Drew Holiday. So the thing with Holiday is that we all know he missed a lot of games with the Rona, and so far he's only had 2 games back, but they've been pretty lackluster. I mean, in default ESPN leagues, he's produced 1 fantasy point and 5 fantasy points, and while it has been limited minutes, that's just really disappointing production from him, but I mean, we don't really know how this virus works. Like, we all know it affects players and how they play when they get back. Some of them it doesn't, but it looks like that's been the case with Holiday. So obviously it's going to take him some time to get back into the swing of things. But I feel like the All-Star break's really going to help him out a lot with that, just because he's going to get a lot of time to rest and recover and really just get back to his former self. So yeah, I feel like a lot of fantasy managers aren't going to remember the production because it was so long ago that he was like producing at a good level, and you might be able to sell the fact that like managers are panicking. He hasn't played in like 2 weeks, and when he has played, he hasn't looked like himself, and he hasn't been playing too well. So I think you could probably buy low on Drew Holiday just because he missed the games and he hasn't been great in his return so far. And yeah, I mean, that's just how you're going to talk this trade up, honestly, if you want it to happen. And yeah, let's just move on to the third player. So speaking of players that haven't played in a while, the next buy low trade target over the All-Star break is going to be Andre Drummond. And Andre Drummond hasn't played a basketball game since February 12th, which was honestly almost a month ago at this point. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, we all know the Cavs aren't planning on playing him until they find a trade for him. And I know we don't know where he's going to get traded. Normally I wouldn't advocate for like picking up players that you don't know where they're going to get traded to, but I feel like it's sort of an exception in Drummond's case just because like no matter where he goes, he's always going to do the same thing. He's just going to have a great rebounding rate. He's going to get the occasional block shots. He's going to get an all-right amount of steals. And he's just going to get efficient scoring because, like, I feel like if he goes to a disciplined team, they won't want him doing that stupid post-up that he always does when he has, like, no post moves whatsoever. And, yeah, the only way he'll be taking shots will be, like, pick and rolls or lobs. So, yeah, I feel like Andre Drummond is a great buy low target just because he hasn't played in so long. And you can try to sell to the manager that has him that, like, hey, I don't know where he's going to go, and you don't know where he's going to go either. And meanwhile, you know that like no matter where he's going to go, he's going to have some decent production. So yeah, I feel like Andre Drummond's a good buy low trade target, especially if your team is pretty solid. Like if you're looking like you're going to be making the playoffs, just because he is not going to be playing until like he might not play till March 25th at the trade deadline. So if you're comfortable taking that risk and you have enough space spots, or even if you have like an IR spot that's empty, I'd definitely go ahead and trade for Andre Drummond. So another great player to buy low on because they haven't played in a while over the All-Star break is going to be Christian Wood. So there have been some reports on Christian Wood after the ankle injury. He personally said that he feels like he could play right now, but the team's obviously just being cautious with him. And yeah, a great time to trade for injured players is the All-Star break just because like they have an extra week to recover, let their bodies rest, not like any expectations on them. They're just going to focus on the rehab and the recovery. And yeah, I mean, it says that he's going to be back like not before the All-Star break, but I would assume shortly afterwards. So this isn't like Drummond where you're going to have to wait 2 weeks after the All-Star break for him to get back into the lineup, because Christian Wood looks like he's going to be coming back like almost right away. And yeah, I mean, he was having some crazy production before he got hurt, and I would expect that to continue once he gets back into the lineup. The Rockets have been on like a 12-game losing streak, which is kind of ridiculous, but he's just a great producer on their team. Like, you always want to have good fantasy players on bad teams just because they're going to give you some really great production. So yeah, I think it's a good time to pick him up before he gets back into the lineup, because then people aren't going to be so apt to want to trade him. And yeah, I think it's a great time to buy low on Christian Wood. So if you made it this far into the video, you already know, drop a W in the comments so I know who the OGs are. I really appreciate you guys watching all the videos, and I hope this helps you guys target some buy low trade targets over the break. And the last player I want to talk about is also someone that's been out for quite a while, and it's going to be CJ McCollum. And I feel like he's sort of been forgotten about in all of this crazy things that have happened this season, but he was on absolute fire before he got hurt. Like, it was ridiculous. He was averaging 48 fantasy points a game in ESPN default leagues, which is just absolutely nuts. Like, his production this last season was not this good, but I mean, it was the increase in the volume of his three-pointers, honestly, that really increased his fantasy value. And yeah, I expect him to be back soon. The report said that he'd be reevaluated in 2 weeks, and that was roughly 2 weeks ago, so I would expect him to be back shortly after the All-Star break. Portland's going to be a really competitive team as well, so he's a great player to have for the playoffs. And yeah, I think it's a good time to trade for him because it's not going to cost you too much. So yeah, with that being said, that's going to wrap up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this helps you guys target some players over the All-Star break. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.